Hey everybody, this is the Post Movie Podcast presented by ObsessedWithFilm.com. I'm Steve Head.
I'm John Black.
And on this week's episode, we have a guest, Bob Chipman, Moviebob.
Hello, how's it going?
Glad to have you back, Bob.
Oh, thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
We're here to talk about Thor, which we just saw over at Boston Common. And we just made our way over to the Boston Common proper. We're outside sitting in the
bleachers.
In the bleachers of the softball field in Boston Common. So apologies for any background noise, buses, softball sounds, kids screaming, things like that.
This is also where they play Quidditch. The MIT,
my God,
the MIT
yes.
team plays Quidditch.
That's
the
Quidditch!
The Emerson Quidditch team.
Oh, Lord.
Is it? Yeah. Have you watched them? Have you ever
No.
It's hilarious.
We talked about them trotting through the theater corridor.
They think they're flying.
It strikes me as interesting that I watched it and I was very surprised once I realized, wait a minute, these people are all sober.
Yeah.
What happened? I mean, when I was in college, you couldn't play Ultimate Frisbee without getting drunk, let alone the fucking Harry Potter game.
Well, it also reminded me, when little kids learn to play soccer?
Yeah.
And they all go for the ball? Yeah. That's what it was. They were all going for the ball, whatever they call the ball.
What is the ball?
I mean, there's another conversation right there. I'm thinking to myself, okay, we got to get to Thor, but I'm thinking to myself, how is it entertaining watching Quidditch? You got to know, it's like watching a sport. You just don't know the rules. I mean, it's like
I really do think the whole point is so that people can say later on that they were on the Emerson Quidditch team.
Yeah.
So that they can just say that they were.
And maybe Thor will spawn Hammer games. Or
I would go to see that.
Yeah. I could throw the Molinar farther than you.
So we were just walking from the theater, and I think John summed it up exactly the way I thought of the film, which is the way Bob thought of the film after a certain scene came on after the credits.
Yeah.
We heard Bob sat there and said, "Holy shit." I mean, as a Marvel fan, without spoiling anything, it must have been a revelation.
Yeah, well, if you're a fan, I don't know when this will be running, but when if you're a fan of where these things come from and references, it's a big one. It's a big one. It's at least as big as when Samuel L. Jackson showed up in Iron Man. In terms of, this time not a person, this time more of a reference to something, but is something I never in a million years expected to ever see in one of these movies. So I'm pretty damn psyched right now.
And if you're not a fan, ask a fan. They're the guys who are cheering or gasping or their jaws are hanging open. Ask them what it all means. And even when Ty did that, you gave him an explanation of what it all means. And
John's talking about Ty Burr. He's the film critic for the Boston Globe.
Yeah, it's a good explanation of why it's such a big deal for fans.
Yeah.
So,
well, I'm going to start off in saying I digged the film reluctantly, because I have my issues with Marvel, but Kenneth Branagh, damn him, he did a good job. I also begrudgingly really like Kenneth Branagh.
Yeah.
And this has his sort of, in a way, Henry V type of touch. And Bob, you made a great point afterwards about Branagh being able to direct actors speaking in such a high-minded manner.
Elevated language.
They made such a good pick. Everyone thought this was so weird when they said we're going to get Kenneth Branagh to make a superhero movie. But when you see this, it makes total sense because half this movie is on Earth and it's regular, but then at least 50% of this movie is off in Viking land in Asgard where the Viking gods are shouting at each other and it's all this big Shakespearean language, my father, my brother, my land, my realm, my
hammer.
And it really never wasn't convincing. It really was.
Well, you really buy it.
And here's the thing, Anthony Hopkins plays Odin.
Yeah.
And when he has this, he yells his dialogue in The Wolfman, you crack up because it's so cheesy. He's yelling pretty much lines along the same mental level, but because he's got Branagh and because he's bringing that theatrical presence to it, it works, even when he's just saying, my son.
You know what really works, though, is the CGI interpretation of Asgard.
Yeah.
Was really quite amazing to look at. I'm not going to say much about the 3D because that was take it or leave it, but the CGI rendering was quite amazing.
It's not the best CGI I've seen, but the design, but the fact that the design is so imaginative.
The frost giants, basically just
and a lot of those are guys in practical makeup, which I love because you never see that anymore. Yeah, it's guys in regular like makeup suits, which is
great.
They were
in the credits. So really, there was a frost giant bodyguard and all those guys.
Yeah,
but don't you think Asgard kind of looked a little bit like a Vegas bathroom?
A little bit. It's a shiny movie.
I'm going to save that quote.
It's a little gaudy, you know.
This is the first one of these Marvel movies that has really kind of gone out of its way to look like the way Jack Kirby drew this stuff, which is to say it makes no spatial sense, no physical sense, but it's all shiny and elaborate angles. Tom Hiddleston's playing Loki. Is that Hiddleston?
I think you got it.
Tom Hiddleston. Tom is
say Tom.
British Tom is playing Loki, and he has like these horns on his head, and they're not like horns; they're like bigger than his arms, coming up in this giant curve over his head, and he looks preposterous, but it looks like it belongs there.
Right.
Like this.
Right.
This is a hat here. It's okay.
Yeah.
Right. And then out of that context, when they come to Earth, when that costume comes to Earth, it looks like they're at a convention.
Yeah.
I mean, it's literally that.
Yeah, they're in Vegas now. They're in the desert, and he kind of wandered out after his bachelor party. Look what they did to my head.
If this had been made 10 years ago, there would have probably been like a Siegfried and Roy joke.
Yeah,
well, but now that's not funny anymore.
In the it's still funny. In the when you mentioned about the Kirby art, when they first bring us to Asgard, and there's that sweeping camera to show us everything. There's like this half building floating in air, and that's the kind of stuff Kirby would always put in the background. And you'd never go in that building, and that has nothing to do with anything. But like, really,
it just is out the universe.
Yeah, it's that otherworldliness that he brings to it.
When they had the contractors come in, they said, what we can do is we can put a floating wall over here, and they said, go with it.
Yeah.
Do it.
Look cool.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. My one thing about the movie is it's kind of the way I relate to Thor comic books. If there's one in the room, I'll read it.
Yeah.
I don't go out of my way to read it. I don't think Thor's a cool superhero. He's kind of a... Well, the thing I like that they captured...
He's kind of pompous?
Well, that's what...
He's kind of arrogant?
Well, no, that's the thing I like that they kept in it, that he's a dick.
Yeah.
And if you read the other card, when he first comes to Earth, he's not like, Captain America hiding out trying to figure it all out. He's a dick. When he wants another cup of coffee, he lets everyone know he wants another cup of coffee.
This human body weakens. I need sustenance.
Yeah.
I love that they kept that, for whatever reason, the Viking gods come to Earth and they kind of speak oldie English.
Yeah.
Not quite like in the comics, it was always, "Zounds, forsooth me mortals." But in this one, it's everyone else talks normal and they talk like they're in the Lord of the Rings.
You think me strange.
Yeah. But it works though, because it gives you something. It's not it's suddenly all these really bland exposition scenes are funny because they're coming from this massive. Is he Australian?
Chris Hemsworth.
Chris Hemsworth, who I guess has been in fuck all before this.
Yeah, some good Australian soap opera.
Yeah,
the movie carries. That does have a through and through, buoyant sense of humor.
Yeah, well, he's in that remake of Red Dawn that they haven't bothered to release yet.
Really?
Yeah, so I guess they'll release it now because he's going to blow the hell up after this.
Does he take his shirt off in Red Dawn? Because evidently this is quite a one. This is one for the ladies.
Yeah.
There were a couple of moments. There were a couple of moments where there was a distinct reaction between the women in the audience and the men.
Yeah.
And then women in the audience when Hemsworth took his shirt off and sort of paraded through the lab.
Yeah.
And then during the inevitable, there's a locking of lips.
Yeah.
And Natalie Portman jumps him.
Yeah.
The women were like...
Yeah. It's weird because it seems like he wasn't going for it. It's a very young boys superhero movie in that regard where, there are girls, but they're not really important. We want to see the monsters.
Who was the girl who played Carla?
Kat Dennings.
Who was in
Darcy.
Nick and Nora's
Darcy.
Yeah. Nick and Nora's Ultimate...
Infinite.
Yeah, she seemed really representative of the women, at least the way they were perceiving horror.
Yeah, and just her timing was just classic. And she's fun to watch, I think, in anything, but she was good in this. She added that nice comic touch. And so,
have you seen Robert Rodriguez's Shorts?
No,
she was the older sister in Shorts.
She was
kind of the same, dismissive attitude that she seems to do well.
She's sort of representing everyone's girlfriend who kind of gets dragged to this movie.
Yeah.
She's having fun, but she thinks it's kind of silly. Like Natalie Portman's really into the whole thing, and she's just kind of whatever.
She's like the Elizabeth Perkins 20 years later.
Yeah.
About last night, today.
Yeah.
And Natalie Portman, it was so nice to see her look normal.
Yeah.
Just like she's just like a normal girl in this.
They let her dress down.
Yeah, she's kind of silly.
She's in sweats and flannel the whole time.
Yeah, because when she was in, His Highness, she's stuck in the push-up bra and, doing the ass chastity shot, which I loved, by the way. I loved. Don't get me wrong. Yeah, no. But she was just a normal, she's a science dweeb.
Yeah, she looks, I guess, there's definitely like an element of, this is, again, working with Kenneth Branagh, who always works well with female actresses and female audiences. This seems like a nice kind of, a give to the female audience for this, where Thor, who is he's supposed to be a god and more or less looks like it. The guy's in ridiculously good shape. Yeah. He's got the blonde flowing mane.
He was well cast.
Yeah, he looks like he's just walked in off the cover of like a dime store romance novel. It looks like
he's a bodice ripper.
There's a little bit of Fabio in there.
But Natalie Portman is like the normal girl, and usually in these movies you have it's the really plain dweeby guy, like in Transformers, where Shia LaBeouf, who just looks like this dweeby little guy in these movies, is nailing Megan Fox. Who is someone who would not give him a second look in real life if he wasn't an actor. Uh-huh. And now in this one you have the kind of plain Jane girl, her name is even Jane Foster.
Yes.
I remember that.
Yeah.
So it's literally plain Jane and this Greek Viking god guy. So it's fun for the girls to get one of those for a change. Get that fantasy going.
You remember that Fantastic Four? The really bad legendary one with David Ogden Stiers.
Oh, yeah. Well, both of the Fantastic Four suck. Which one? The Roger Corman one that sucked?
Yeah, the Roger Corman one, right? Yeah. Now imagine if Roger Corman did this one, and you had Fabio as Thor, and you had...
He was like a romance novel. He was like a living romance novel cover.
Yeah, he's making it work.
But then he's actually talented enough to kind of have fun with that. He knows he's that, and then he's good in the,
And a terrific... So there's some really good dialogue. It's funny.
And the thing is, when you look at the comics, one of the things that always struck me as enormously hilarious and stupid was that, all right, he's got this giant hammer.
Yeah.
But he flies with it by spinning it around like a helicopter.
That got a rise out of the audience.
There were some movie, I'm kind of like, I'll go with that. I'll just go with it. It looks cool.
They set it up pretty well. I got a little worried at the beginning when there was Anthony Hopkins. Odin was doing his voiceover, and I thought that was going to play out.
Catch us up on the mythology.
Yeah. They go back and forth in time for a moment at the beginning, but they really do spend a fair amount of time in Asgard establishing, that universe, and it looks kind of like Emerald City or a gold city in a way, and the relationship with Thor and his brother, whose name I forget.
Loki.
Yeah,
Loki.
The blonde hair versus the dark hair.
Loki, the
god of thunder versus
god of mischief. Loki's the Viking god of mischief.
Yeah. And so they also introduce us to the frost giants, in their world. And there's a really neat battle at the beginning of this. And one of at one point in the battle, there's sort of the ultimate creature is unleashed upon Thor.
The frost giant pit bull thing.
Kraken,
right.
Frost giant kraken.
There is really a great moment. I don't want to give away the ending, but
the battle ends nicely.
Yeah.
It's like kill beast, pose for photo.
That's what Thor does.
You need a certain amount of self-awareness to look cool when you're wearing like a velvet red cape and a suit of plastic armor.
There is the obvious pause for applause moment.
Yeah, he was like, I did that.
And he looked at the camera like,
that just happened.
I'm a badass.
Yeah.
And they also set up Thor's posse.
Yeah, the Warriors 3.
Yes, I'm not familiar with these guys. Perhaps you are.
They're side characters in Thor. The Thor comics sort of have a very large supporting cast to deal with the fact that Thor isn't the most interesting guy in the world, and also is so powerful that if it was always about him, it would end really fast. So much like this movie takes away his powers for 80% of the movie, because otherwise it would just end really quick because he'd throw a hammer and be done with it.
That's both a good and a bad thing, because there's that give and take with Thor, but Thor, his mojo comes from the hammer. I suppose. That's when he's kicking ass.
Mojo.
Yeah, and to be denied that, actually, it's a good thing Branagh didn't do that for too long.
Yeah, I got enough of it, and then they keep cutting back to Asgard.
Right.
So we have more. So
right.
It's like, okay, granted, Thor's not Thor right now, but here's a guy with horns. Here's some monsters. Here's Idris Elba with this a sword that's bigger than him.
Really, the bridge is a very important part of the film.
The Bifrost.
Yes.
The Rainbow Bridge. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Serious. There's like this very serious movie where they keep talking about the Rainbow Bridge and the Viking road, and
it doesn't have.
It's great. I love.
It doesn't have a rail, and the bridge is sort of amorphous in color, chameleon-like. You could be walking on the bridge, looks like the water, fall right off.
Yeah, it's this really. It really does look like like they look like a children's book illustration of a Viking thing, and threw it right up there. And so he said, "No, that's what it looks like. It's fine. They're walking on a rainbow. It's cool."
And Idris Elba, terrific.
Well, there's that thing where when the posse first rides horses, they're in fucking outer space, in a Vegas bathroom, and suddenly, horses.
Yeah, well.
But when they're riding across the bridge the first time, one of them is riding too close to the edge, and I'm like, he's going to fall. Yeah. He doesn't, because obviously he's riding on a green screen.
It's the
probably not even a real horse.
The architecture of a fantasy world isn't usually logical.
All right, of the Warriors 3 and the chick, the big guy with the big beard is
Volstagg the Voluminous.
No, his name in real life.
His name in real life? Oh, man, I should know that,
because he was the Punisher. He was in the second Punisher.
Ray Stevens.
Ray Stevens. He was in the second Punisher. Yep. So
and he looks interesting fat.
Yeah.
He's cool. I like him. I loved that Punisher movie. He's really good in this.
Yeah, he was great in Rome. Yeah. He just did an Irish mobster movie that was really good that didn't play anywhere. But
and he nails this whole Renaissance fair guy who's tearing meat off a big bone.
He's a bit of a comedic relief.
Yeah.
This is a big movie for. There's going to be a lot of Thors at the next King Richard's fair.
What's the chick's name?
I don't know the actress's name. I want to now. Sif, another Viking lore character that has been dropped into the Marvel universe.
And did Marvel always have an Asian American sidekick too? That seemed a little Benetton to me.
I might say this wrong. Hogun is Tadanobu. I cannot say his last name, but Tadanobu, a Japanese actor. First name's Tadanobu. He plays Hogun, and he is always drawn as Asian in the Thor comics.
Is he?
Yeah, the Warriors 3 don't exist in Viking mythology. They're exclusively Marvel Thor guys. But he is always drawn as Asian looking. He wears kind of like a Mongol headdress, and then the other guy looks like Robin Hood, and then the other guy is a big fat guy. Idris Elba playing Heimdall being black. That's new. That's new. But I like that because he's good.
Yeah.
He's a good actor.
Yeah, great voice.
Yeah.
And how's like the name Hogun?
Yeah.
Hogun.
Yeah.
You know so they set up this situation where of course, everybody knows that Thor's going to get banished to Earth.
Yes.
But as he's doing this, Hopkins is in this throne. His other, Loki's there. Thor's there. Hopkins is going through this speech where he's about to proclaim him king. And he gets to everything, right before the moment he's supposed to say king, then, frost giants.
Yeah.
So it's good. He couldn't have just sped it up. It's just to say, frost, and now proclaim you king, frost giants.
It's a very big movie that's pretext on, like courtly intrigue for a political system that doesn't exist.
And it gives Anthony Hopkins a chance to shout a line later on. It's just like, see, if he shouts like that in The Wolfman, you're laughing. But he shouts like that under Brenner's direction and says, wow, that's a mad king.
Yeah. And Thor's the fish out of water situation with basically in all the scenes when he's with Natalie Portman, the Adventures of Natty Gann Portman. With Natalie Portman and Stellan Skarsgård. Very funny. Particularly, there's a particularly great scene where Loki unleashes this. I don't know what its name is.
The Destroyer. They only say it once in the movie, but that big living suit of armor is called the Destroyer.
Sort of like the thing with the great visor of fire.
It looks like Gort. It's Gort basically, and that thing looks exactly like it does in Thor comics. Another thing I never thought I'd see in a movie is the Destroyer, which just looks ridiculous. It's like a suit of plate armor full of fire with spikes on it, but it works.
Yeah, the fire consumes his body from within and then shoots out of his face. I mean, and the sound effect is astonishing.
Yeah.
Every time the fire shoots out, the sound effect is like that is unique.
Yeah, really good sound
was really
design.
cool.
Yeah.
And he basically is sent to this, I don't know where they are, New Mexico?
Yeah,
outside
they look like they're supposed to be in New Mexico.
I want to say outside of Vegas, because it goes with my theme, but it is New Mexico.
It could be. It's someplace in the desert.
Yeah, in the sense of perhaps in a similar way, like in Superman 2, they fortunately they were able to clear out the town, so it's not very blood. It's sort of blood.
There's like 50 people in this city, so they're able to get everyone to safety.
And there's a State Farm. I think there's a
7-Eleven.
So there's
a Mexican food restaurant.
Yeah, the Destroyer blasts the hell out of a 7-Eleven.
But the thing we were talking about before,
you got to be able to pay for the city.
Marvel's penchant for recycling. There's a scene in the Hulk where they're in an ice cream parlor. Yeah. And there's a scene in this movie where like sitting on top of a 1950s ice cream parlor.
Yeah.
It's like, really? Okay.
Yep, this is
Go ahead.
Well, this city destruction scene is actually reminiscent of Superman 2 in a way.
Yeah, it looks a lot like Superman 2 when Zod's tearing the place up.
Yeah, but I like the idea that this is also where Thor's posse comes in to help defend him.
Yeah.
So you get the scenes in the film that the Comic-Con crowd is going to love.
Oh yeah.
Because it's the action, the humor, and that freaking robot. It's cool.
Yeah, that's such a simple design. It's not like over designed. It just looks, it's just a bunch of, when they draw it, it's just a big silver shape with lines on it. It's like, he's made of metal. There you go.
Right. This is the second in what seems to be a disturbing trend for me in movies. Rene Russo.
Yeah.
Plays the mom.
Yeah.
Rene Russo, the babe from Lethal Weapons with the babe.
Affair.
Yeah, the babe.
She was getting a little.
She's the mom. It was
Thomas
like seeing the lady in
Kelly McGillis
in Stakeland.
Yeah.
Kelly McGillis, the babe, is suddenly the older priest.
The babe from Witness.
She's the old nun.
To be fair, Rene Russo was old enough to be someone's mom in the Thomas Crown Affair. She's just in really good shape.
Right.
She doesn't look bad here, but
my MILF fantasies do not transfer this far to see her as Mrs. Odin.
Yeah. Well,
she's towards GILF.
I know. She's a GILF now. That's so weird. Next week on the Post Movie Podcast, our favorite GILF. Helen Mirren. We'll just the whole list.
She's in this because Helen Mirren was busy. Must be.
Well, I kept thinking Alan Cumming would be Loki, but then he's too old for
that.
That
could have very well fit here.
But that would have been too campy, too crazy.
Yeah, he's already done Marvel.
Yeah, and he was the Great Wazoo. That was pretty much his high point.
What's also terrific about this film is the music.
Yeah,
Patrick
the score is
Doyle.
great.
That Kenneth Branagh went with Patrick Doyle again. His score for Henry V. Loved it. Much Ado About Nothing. But Henry V, that's really where it's at. But this, I think it's probably the best music I've ever heard in a Marvel film. London Symphony Orchestra.
I agree
Terrific.
that if there's been a problem with the Marvel movies so far compared to other superhero movies is I couldn't hum you 3 bars of the Iron Man score. And I know that.
But you can do Superman, can't you?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I can do Superman. The Hulk score, same thing. It's it's not bad, but it's noise. This is distinct. This is a really rich orchestral score. So that even if the score is doing a lot of the work in this movie, because if this music wasn't good, you'd be looking at this going, oh come on, he's clearly wearing plastic armor.
Absolutely supports it in the best possible way.
You can have a guy standing in front of a wind machine with the air blowing his big stupid cape around and whatnot, but with this behind it. It works. It sounds, there's no, usually in action movies now, they'll throw like some electric guitar in there or like some electronica. No, this is, a big pounding orchestral thing, and it's telling you, this is awesome. You like this.
Yeah, there is, it's amazing for such a, because it's a superhero or comic book movie, it's a lot of old school filmmaking.
Yeah.
Guys dressed in body.
In a way,
the Frost Giants are guys in physical makeup. I love that.
Right.
They're using the computer to inflate them so that they're like 12 feet tall, but they're not.
Well, you also knew there was a scene where like the frost giant leader walks up and he's so much bigger, and I was like, he's standing on a box.
And not only that, I mean, Kenneth Branagh uses Dutch angles for most of the establishing shots in the film, and a lot of just the angles, and it lends a certain off-kilterness to it. You know, just like from Batman, the original TV series. There's a little bit of camp. You know, and the Dutch angle just kind of... It's
Dutch angle?
It's where the camera's tilted.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah.
To either...
And it looks like Earth is... I could be wrong with this. It looks like mostly Earth is Dutched and Asgard is straight on.
Yes, in fact, I noticed that each of the key locations being established for the first time, the town, Natalie Portman's character, when the hammer lands, it's in the middle of this crater, and they build this sort of ET type government facility around it. That's established with Dutch angles. So
maybe to make us feel disoriented as Thor is disoriented because he's on Earth and doesn't have his powers and whatnot.
It's really weird, though, in the sense that you go from Asgard to the sterile government environment.
Yeah.
You know,
Earth looks really boring in this way. You don't want to be there. You're like Thor. You want to go back to the floating castle place and hang out with the Vikings.
But except there were no really hot babes in Asgard.
Yeah, there were a couple of them hanging around that table.
The warrior chick, who, by the way, has a moment against the robot that is insane.
Yeah, she's cool. There's they're clearly the Warriors 3 don't get a lot to do in this movie, but they get that one big scene, and they're clearly telling you, it's like, hey, you know, give us enough money to make Thor 2 so that we can have more of these guys.
I was thinking of this movie as like, you know, just a holdover until the Avengers. Yeah. But it actually... It's really damn good.
Yeah, I like it. As a caveat, I don't know that it's like the best thing of the year. It's a solid B+, but it's
I agree.
I agree. Like last week, the fucking Fast and the Furious movie, like their tagline was "Summer Begins," and I'm like, no, fuck no, this is Summer Begins.
I was thinking a good tagline for this would be "Get Hammered."
Every newspaper in the country is going to lead with their review is "It's Hammer Time."
Yeah. If you don't like it, Thor's a bore.
Yeah.
You know, I'll have to come up with something else.
Yeah, I think so.
MC Hammer could have played the gatekeeper, but they got Idris Elba.
Yeah.
I want to say though that like I think we generally all three of us liked this movie.
Yeah. I liked it. I loved parts of it. I liked all of it.
You know, but I had my issues with a couple of things. I think a couple of jokes fell flat.
Yeah.
I think, and not that Kat Dennings didn't do a terrific job, but you can see that there was an intent there that didn't fully come to a realization that this is really funny.
Yeah,
it wasn't really funny.
Yeah,
it was all right.
It's funny. It's funny-ish.
Yeah.
It's theoretically funny. It's like there's a line in the script that said "joke here."
And Clark Gregg, he is the perfect government operative, a good guy, and also just, you know, you feel like you're in on him. You feel like you have the secret knowledge with him. So you typically, whatever he says is going to be like, you know, funny
when he meets Thor and he talks about, you know, you destroyed my men, you made them look like jerks, blah blah blah. We can work with that.
The fact that he is such a good guy in the body of an asshole.
Right.
You know?
and because we've seen him over the course of the movies, he's really taking it in stride and holding the universe together for me, because he's like, we can use that. Yeah. Hold on here.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, the guy with I need some guy in a cherry picker. I know who to call.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. There's this is we're talking Agent Clark Gregg plays Agent Coulson, Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D., who's in the only guy who's in all the movies so far. Mm-hmm. He was in.
And there's one other guy, some old guy.
He wasn't in Hulk though.
He wasn't?
No, Samuel L. Jackson wasn't in Hulk.
Not that old guy. The old white guy who was in the pickup truck in this one.
Are we treading in?
Stanley.
Know that Samuel L. Jackson possibly could be involved with this film?
I think to the degree that there's a surprise, he's not the surprise.
And I'm assuming, as I've read a number of things online, that most people know about the cameo.
I think people are expecting him, and
not just him.
There's a Marvel cameo which this handles the cameos better than Iron Man 2 did. Like, I like Iron Man 2, but it was really obvious that they were stopping the movie to say, look, Nick Fury, look, War Machine, look, Black Widow.
Yeah.
In this one, there is another cameo by another Marvel character. People who know, what's nice is people who know him will know him, and other people will just say, "Oh, well, that guy's kind of interesting."
But the way they weave it in actually plays into a moment.
Yeah,
that's really involved with the narrative.
Yeah,
it's just some sort of a thing.
It's a cool thing. I squealed a little when I saw it. I was like, "Yay! I know who that is."
I knew someone squealed behind.
Yeah, you were saying so Clark Gregg. He's Agent Colton. He's basically putting the puzzles together.
Yeah, he's the guy who's there when Samuel L. Jackson's not there. Yeah. And he is in these movies exclusively. He was like a character actor before this. He was in Iron Man as this character because he was Jon Favreau's buddy, and he stuck him in the movie, and it fit. So now he's like the glue of the Marvel universe.
Yeah. It's kind of like when they bring John Ratzenberg in for a Pixar movie.
Yeah.
It's almost like a good luck thing. He's in it. It'll work.
Well, it'll be interesting to see how Joss Whedon balances Clark Gregg, in the Avengers. How that's gonna,
I picture him being really exasperated because he's like the normal guy who has to be in charge of, who knows what's going on with Nick Fury. In the comics, Nick Fury's immortal. I doubt he is in the movies. But like he's got like a god of thunder, a guy from World War II, Tony Stark, who's a mess, the Hulk is an ogre, whoever else might be in the Avengers. I figure this guy is being really exasperated, like, oh God,
he's
fine,
got
I'll
to be
deal
the
with these
connecting
guys.
thread,
that
balances how these different stories are going to play out. And the Avengers is obviously going to be you've got multiple characters to deal with. Hopefully they'll be, because of these films, developed enough so you won't have to deal with that exposition when you get to the movie.
Multiple characters and multiple personalities, sometimes in the same characters.
And that's how
you need that energy to because again, what I said before is that Thor's a dick, and he has to stay a dick, even though he kisses the hand.
He gets a little better, but he's still a god,
right?
Right.
But the thing I want to say though quickly that Batman fell apart, the series, when it got to Joel Schumacher and whatnot, because of too many because things were being spread thin. Character-wise, that could be a concern for the Avengers.
It could be.
If you're not establishing these characters.
I have bigger problems with Schumacher's Batman movies than the too many characters, because Batman Returns had 3 bad guys and worked out pretty good. It's you can do multiple bad guys, but or multiple heroes and whatnot if you've got a good script, and Schumacher's Batman movies did not at all.
So it wasn't the nipples on the suit? So
no,
Captain America has nipples?
Vanity Fair liked the nipples. That's sold magazines.
Nipples on the bat suit is so far down the list of things that are wrong with that movie. I could take them because fine. Batman's costume has nipples on it. Big deal. Wonder Woman fights.
Didn't.
Yeah, well, Wonder Woman fights crime in her underpants.
The thing that gets me is that Mr.
Wonder
Freeze
Woman fights crime in my underpants.
Underoos.
Not a single bit of cold breath coming from Mr. Freeze. In the Sub-Zero environment. But anyway, we're getting off base there. Yeah. But for the Avengers, it'll be interesting to see how it works out.
Well, we've got one more movie before that.
Oh, right.
We have Captain America and...
is Green Lantern not part of Marvel?
No, Green Lantern's DC.
Oh,
Green Lantern's a whole other kettle of fish. I'm looking forward to it, but it's a whole other kettle of fish.
I think we're done. We good?
I like ending in on kettle of fish.
Bob, any final thoughts on Thor?
Yay!
Good.
Hammer.
Good, that's good. Good. So, hey, listen to us. I got to edit that out. You can listen to all of our episodes online. We're at post-movie.net, and you can follow us on Facebook and subscribe to us on iTunes. And as always, leave a review. If you do, we'd be most appreciative. And if you have any questions, you can send us an email at contact@post-movie.net. And Bob, where can listeners find you?
You can find my reviews of movies at escapistmagazine.com, Escape to the Movies every Friday, The Big Picture every Tuesday, and the Game Overthinker whenever I feel like putting it up on screwattack.com.
I love that. Whenever I feel like putting it up.
It's a personal schedule.
Yeah. New media, gentlemen. New media.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us, Bob.
Thank you.
Until next week, I'm Steve Head.
I'm John Black.
So long, everyone.